everyone, I'm Aubrey and I'm back for another video. Today I will be unpacking Genesis 4 through 7, I think. If that's not correct, then at least the title of this video will be correct. I'd like to give another huge shout out to Daily Audio Bible. Nobody asked me to make this video, so I'm not like affiliated with them in any way, but they are the reason why I'm making this, the reason I'm able to. So go and check them out for sure. They have an app. I like to listen to the chronological one specifically, but I'm just gonna jump into some things that I've noticed about reading Genesis chapters 4 through 7 that I haven't noticed before. So in the last video is when the creation story happened and Adam and Eve were created, and then the fall happened, and then they were led out of the Garden of Eden, basically exiled. And in chapters 4 through 7, that's when you see Cain and Abel being born. And Cain is the first person to be procreated, and he's also the first person to murder. So Cain is the older one of Adam and Eve's children, and Abel is the younger one. And they go out into so they both offered sacrifices to God, but Cain didn't offer a sacrifice that was acceptable, and Abel did. And it doesn't talk about in Genesis what is an acceptable sacrifice and what's not, but it's made pretty clear that Cain knew that he wasn't doing the right thing by what he was sacrificing, and Abel was. And Cain was really angry that God accepted Abel and not Cain, and God told Cain, if you do what is right, you will be accepted. Why are you so... It said his face was dejected. Why do you look so dejected? If you do what is right, you will be accepted. But then Cain he says to Abel, his brother, he says, let's go out into the field. And when he's out there, he murders Abel. And it was pointed out to me by Brant Hansen one time that they didn't have like weapons at that point, so it would have had to be with like a rock or something. So that's especially violent, and yeah, like that's a lot of effort that went into killing his brother. And then God came and said, like, what have you done? And Cain lies and says, I don't know, my brother's guardian. And God talks about how Abel's blood had been swallowed up by the ground of the earth. And it says, like, his blood cries out to me from the ground. And the ground had already been cursed because of Adam and Eve, because in 1 through 3, there's a passage where God's talking to Adam, and part of Adam's punishment is going to be that he's going to have to work really hard to get his food. But now that Cain killed Abel, and Abel's blood had spilled out through the ground, now the ground's even more cursed, and now God is saying, no matter how hard you're going to work for your food, it's just not going to, the ground is just not going to give you good crops. So that's definitely a change. And something that just like I found really interesting is and this is something I realized today, was if you think about it, Abel is the one, he made sacrifices because he was a shepherd, so he sacrificed firstborn lambs, which was a pleasing sacrifice to God. So he shed the blood of the firstborn lambs and it was a pleasing sacrifice to God. And if you think about it, Cain also made a sacrifice, but it was more of a sacrifice to evil, because he spilled not the firstborn lamb's blood, but his brother's blood. And so he made a sacrifice to evil. And in sacrificing to evil, that is why the ground became cursed, because of his doing. And I'm not a theologian or anything. I don't even know if I'm saying that word correctly. But just some things that I've noticed. I'm going to turn this light up a little bit. Okay. And then, so now that Cain has killed Abel, God gives Eve another son named Seth. And I was really curious about like some of the names, and I looked up what Seth means, because especially in biblical times, people had names for specific reasons. They just weren't named just, or like the name Aubrey, your name's Aubrey. It's like they had names, their names meant something. And Seth means appointed one. And Seth, so what happens after Seth is born is we have this splitting of Adam and Eve's descendants. So it's Cain's descendants and Seth's descendants. And Cain's descendants, very violent, and they don't have regard. They don't hold God in high regard. And Seth's descendants do, and they're known as the people of God. And it was pointed out to me by the Daily Audio Bible last year that there's a lot of generational curses, especially in the Old Testament, and also generational blessings. And you can really see that in play in the descendant line of Cain and Seth, because Cain is the father of violence, basically, and at least the human father of violence, and his descendants are violent and don't hold God in high regard, just like him. And Seth's descendants do hold God in high regard, just like him. And the problem with this is eventually Seth's descendants, the people of God, saw that the Canaanites, so Cain's descendants, the women, were very beautiful. So they started having families with the Canaanites. And so now we don't have just two descendant lines anymore. We have two descendant lines that have been mixed. And that's not good, because Seth's descendants were the people of God, and now that they're not anymore. And I don't want anybody to misinterpret what I'm saying about like mixing people is bad. That's not what I'm trying to say here. I'm talking specifically about generational curses and generational blessings. So because Seth's descendants had generational blessings and Cain's descendants had generational curses, Seth's descendants no longer had that after they chose to go down that path. But there was some people still, like Noah is a descendant of Seth. And it was also pointed out to me recently that the flood is basically the first baptism. So the ground had been cursed. It says that Noah was the only blameless person, only righteous person on earth in those days. Like, can you imagine just all those people and there's just one? I do think there's a lot less nowadays than we think there is, unfortunately. And Jesus seems to think so too, but that's not the point right now. But God says that all the people on the earth were just mortal flesh. And flesh is typically not used in a positive way, it's more used to refer to the sinful nature of human beings. And so, like, if you're living in the spirit, you're not living in the flesh, and if you're living in the flesh, you're not living in the spirit. And in the New Testament, baptism is basically putting the flesh to death and being born again in the spirit. And so God takes Noah and his family and sends this tremendous flood that I can't even imagine. And he starts over and he cleans everything. He cleans everything. It's like he baptized the entire earth. That's incredible. And Noah means rest and comfort. I think it was Noah's father. If it wasn't his father, it was one of his ancestors. He said he named him Noah because he wanted Noah to bring them relief from the hard work of the ground that had been caused by Cain. And that's what happened. Because the floods came, it baptized the whole earth, and I don't know what else to say but that. And just so that's basically all that I wanted to talk about, but there's like just a couple other things that I found interesting. So Cain has a descendant called Lamech, and Lamech is born a few generations after Cain. So after Cain kills Abel, he's sent away. Cain is like, well, if anybody finds me, they're gonna kill me. And he says that to God. And God says, no, they're not. I'm gonna put a mark on you, and anybody who kills you will be punished 7 times over. And he goes off. And then Lamech, who is a few generations after Cain, he says, I killed somebody, and if somebody is punished 7 times for killing Cain, they're going to be punished 77 times for killing me. Another problem with this is Cain actually talked to God about this, and God is actually the one who told Cain that whoever kills Cain will be punished 7 times over. God did not say that to Lamech, and Lamech didn't actually talk to God. So Lamech was basically telling that about himself, and that's not how it works. So that's really haughty, and that's Cain's descendant. So he's basically saying that if anyone who kills Cain is punished 7 times, if they kill me, they're going to be punished 77 times. But he said that to himself. And a descendant of Seth, Enoch. I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about this, and I was just so shocked. So it says that Enoch walked in close fellowship with God in his time on earth, and he lived 300 years or something, and then he disappeared because God took him. And then the story just kind of continues as when I heard that, I was like, wait a minute, what? Can we back up a little bit? Because I've never heard anybody talk about that. He walked in close fellowship with God, and then he disappeared because God took him. And nobody talks about that. And I just think that really caught me off guard. And you can just see with Lamech and Enoch, the difference in the descendants of Cain and Seth. And it just, it's so amazing, like reading these things as like an adult. I've known these stories since I was a itty bitty little thing because I grew up in church. But reading them as an adult, it just gives you a whole new perspective, especially when you read them multiple times over and like hear different like insights from different people. It's just amazing, and that's why I want to do this. So that's all I have for today. I love you guys. Definitely check out Daily Audio Bible. I listen to the chronological one. Today is January 2nd of 2021. Bye. I love you guys.